Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. In this stream, I should maybe actually change the title. So, I'm the reason I'm saying change. Well, okay. So, anyways, sorry. The subject is going to be the free agency and all the signings and such. And what I was going to say is that early NHL free agency recap. I thought when I originally decided on this stream and set this stream that it would take time for some signings to happen, and pretty much almost everybody's signed. There's still some to be done, but some big names, but um, essentially it's done. So really, I don't even need to do another recap unless it's like some short thing, but. Um, Yeah, so, anyways, that's the subject. I'm just going to pull up a couple of things here. Do, 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 do. Why did I have that pulled up? Oh, okay, yeah, there was another topic I was going to cover. It's a good thing. Okay, so one last thing I'm just going to check before I start sharing screen is I just want to make sure there's nothing I missed of great significance. No. Okay, so I can close that. Gotta change the size of this. And now I can share screen. So, yeah, we'll go through not all the signings, obviously, because that would be, a bit ridiculous. Typically, the contracts that I would talk about would be ones that are of like 5 million or more. And for the most part, actually, should I even go to smaller contracts? Um, hmm. Maybe 2 million is probably best. Yeah, it's not a crazy amount. So, I won't talk about all of them, but um, at least some of the. Oh, yeah, and another thing I should pull up is the buyouts. Um, buyout history. Whoops. Okay. I think I might have. Yeah, I think I covered all the buyout history on my draft recap stream, so I won't bother. Um, so I guess I'll start with this. So there's a number of people that have gone to salary arbitration. So those are RFA players with arbitration rights. I don't know the full details of it, but all these players, I think maybe some of them have signed since, but they're all essentially they have an arbitrator decide on what the correct contract is. So there's a bunch of guys here. They're in alphabetical order. Nothing of any like crazy significance. Maybe you could argue with Samsonov for the Leafs and Swayman for the Bruins, Terry for the Ducks. Those are maybe larger contracts. Now, some of those other guys, I mean, I just don't know what their full stats are, so maybe some of them are going to be some higher contracts, like Vince Dunn. Velarde, I know, is going to be, not a small contract. So, anyways, there's all the people there. That an arbitrator is going to decide, unless they're able to agree to terms before the hearing date. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go over all of them. So what we'll do is just kind of skim through some of the names here, and we'll decide on if there's anything to talk about. So, Blackwood going to San Jose, 2.35. I think that's kind of what he was getting paid before. Pacioretty only at $2 million. If he can be healthy, he had an Achilles injury and then re-injured it later. Yeah. So if he can be healthy, I mean, he's an outstanding scorer. So in like full-ish seasons, 30 some odd goals. So that's a steal for Washington. Now, Washington, I think they're going to be a bubble team. So is it going to, if he's healthy, is it going to push them over into being a playoff team? I don't know, really. But in any case, that's super cheap. If he's healthy, that's going to be a really, really good value contract there. Anybody else here? So Jari's the first one hitting the $5 million threshold that I usually have. So he's 5.375 per for 5 years. This is, I think it's either one of his first or the first contract signed by Dubas. And Jari at 5, I mean, it's reasonable. What are his stats, actually? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an overpay. Because like I've spoken in other streams, I don't know if goalies are worth what they used to be worth. So if you're in the elite category, I think there's like 5-6 goalies that are elite. Then I'd say, 5, 6, maybe up to 8, 9 million. But outside of that, like 5 million is you can probably get, and it's because of goaltending fluctuations and how the range in performance is not super dramatic. So a lot of goalies are all kind of similar save percentage. So really, to pay $5 million for somebody that's probably going to perform similarly to a goalie that you're going to pay $1-2 million, it just doesn't make sense. So, so I don't like that contract, and I was anticipating that Dubas would have learned from his mistakes and would have done a good job, and I don't like that one. Now, again, people might disagree with me, but I don't know if I like that. What else? Killorn, 6.25 per for 4 years. That seems fine. To go to Anaheim, though, I mean, you're not really going to a competitive team. So he's like 20-ish goals per season. Kind of depends. Could be in the high teens. Yeah, decent player. I mean, I think the cap hit's fine. How old is he now? 33. So that puts him up to, where was he here? What did I say? 32? 33. So it puts him to 37 at 6.25. I mean, it's possible people play longer nowadays, but I don't know, 4 years, I would have tried to aim for less. Like 3 years is probably a better duration. 4 is, I mean, maybe, but I don't know. It's kind of pushing it. Corpusalo at $4 million per 5 seasons. He's 29, so the age is right. It's just, is he worth that? I don't think so. I mean, you can see just if you take a look at the stats, 897, 911, 877. Like, this is what I mean is you have no idea what you're going to get. And save percentage, typically, you could argue a goalie has control over, and it's not really. You could have a really bad team and still maintain a reasonable save percentage, and just that kind of fluctuations, it just shows you that he's not consistent enough. So to sign him for that kind of duration, I don't like it. I don't think he's worthy of it. $4 million's not a crazy hit, but like still it's too much. Like he's probably, in my opinion, worth 2.5, 3, and then I would have wanted like 3 years. But again, you know, I'm not a real GM, and so just take it for what it's worth. Who else to talk about? Ryan Graves with Pittsburgh. So let's do this again. 4.5 for 6 years. Puts him to 34. Somewhere around a third of a point per game, which is decent for a defenseman. And he was 4.5. So yeah, duration for age is fine. 4.5 for that performance. It's a market value for sure. And again, I'm not factoring in like how good he is defensively and all that stuff. Yeah, so I'd say, I mean, it's market value. It's fine. Another one where I wouldn't have spent that much, or I would have tried to spend less. So for him, I'm okay with 4.5, 4 preferably, but 4.5 is fine. But I just don't like contracts longer than 3 to 5 years. So, because if they just fall off, or if the wheels come off, then it's like you can get out of it a lot easier. So, yeah, so I mean, I would have wanted 3 to 5 for him. Probably towards 3 because the performance isn't as high. So it could dip pretty quickly and then just not be worth the cap hit. So anyways, Varlamov is an interesting one here. So did I miss it or is it later? So it's later. So I might as well talk about both at the same time. So Varlamov drops off of his cap hit. I think it was million, if I'm not mistaken, and re-signs at 2.75. And I thought he would have went somewhere else, but I guess he really likes his partner that he's playing with, which is Sorokin, who signed 8 years, an extension, 8 years at 8.25. Now, what I was saying about goalies, if you're ever going to pay like any sort of dramatic amount or have long term for a goalie, they need to be an elite goalie. And Sorokin is an elite goalie. He came into the league with great pedigree, won a championship in Russia, had great stats in Russia, came over, and he's been a stellar goalie on a at times mediocre team, other times decent team. So consistently averaging, well, above 918, pretty much a 9.2 something save percentage. That is outstanding. Like, you cannot. And in the playoffs on top of it, 9.22, 9.29. You can't beat that. Like, that's as elite as it gets, essentially. He's 27, 8 years. He's going to be 35. You're getting the prime years at 8.25. Now, because like I said, goalies fluctuate, I don't know if I like spending that much and that long, even on an elite goalie. But if you're going to do it with anybody, that's the goalie you should. I mean, if I could have gotten what I would have wanted with him, it would have been maybe. See, the problem is because what they're actually worth, I think, is something like 6 or 7 in terms of like I know goalies and players are different. Goalies have stopping, players have scoring and stuff. So if we're talking about overall team performance, now I'm sure maybe people have come up with like algorithms to quantify the percentage impact on team performance of different players, goalies versus forwards versus defensemen and things like that. So I don't know if this is accurate, but just my gut instinct says that elite goalies are probably worth something like 7 million ish, maybe on the high end. Probably 6 to 7 is probably accurate. And so 8.25 would be over market value as it stands with how much people pay in real life. That's perfectly reasonable. It's less than Vasilevsky. I think he's 9 or something like that. So to be under 9 and even under 8.5 is reasonable. 8 years when it's going to expire when he's, well, it says he's 28 now, but essentially when he's 35, it's perfectly reasonable. So I'm okay with it. I would have wanted less, but I don't think in the real world you're able to. I think you have to kind of overspend, as I was saying, from a percentage impact on a team's performance. I think they're kind of overspending on goalies now, but in any case, it's fine. Like I said, if you're going to do it with anybody, it's going to be Sorokin. It's a good idea. So to have that tandem and Varlamov, that brings him to 39, which is a bit old, but it's not crazy for a goalie. And the cap hit's not crazy. And I mean, to be honest, of all goalies, Varlamov's quite consistent. 913, 911, 929, 914, 909. I mean, the variation is not that dramatic. He's had like one not so good season with Colorado. Outside of that, very consistent. So he even could be worth more, but they obviously know that they can't spend 14 million on goalies, and Varlamov's okay, I guess, with being kind of a backup that gets some starts. So I just think it's a great tandem for the Islanders. Very smart decision. Really great job on their part. Um, Anybody else to comment on? Duchesne got bought out, I believe, and at $3 million with Dallas, that's a killer deal. Because not last season, but the season before, 43 goals in 86 games, or sorry, 43 goals, 86 points in 78 games. Like that's outstanding. That's like extremely rare. He typically scores somewhere 20 something points, and yeah, to have him at 3 million, that's pretty nuts. Um, so killer deal for Dallas. They've got a competitive team. I mean, uh, good pickup. I don't know who they lost in the offseason. I don't think they lost and too many guys of great significance or any. Anyways, it's not that critical, but long story short, very good value for Duchesne. That's crazy good value in my opinion. Jason Zucker, 5.3 with Arizona one season. I don't think he's worth that in my opinion. From last season, it's fair. 27 goals, 48 points in 78 games. At that performance, he's worth it. But in recent seasons, he's been, pretty subpar. 17 points in 41, 18 in 38. 41 in 60 is kind of more reasonable. 20 goals there. So, he's 31. So, they need to get up to the cap floor. So I'm pretty sure that's kind of a factor there. But I don't know. It's a bit of an overpay in my opinion. But again, it's kind of different circumstances in Arizona in my opinion. How did Bunting do? Is he worth talking about? 20 some odd goals, 50 to 60 points. And how much is it for? 4.53 years. It's a great contract in my opinion. No real risk there, so not much to say more than that. That's I think well done. JT Compher going to Detroit, 5 years at $5.1 million per. 52 points in 82 games, 33 and 70, 18 and 48. I think, wasn't he a second round pick? Decent pedigree and stuff, so he's 28, brings him to 33. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable given the performance. And, I mean, he's trending upwards, so I don't know. It's not bad. Kind of indifferent about that one. I wouldn't spend that much. I'd try to get less, but, I mean, really, it's fine. 5 years, maybe a bit too long a term given limited track record of, performance at a certain level. I don't know. Don't like it that much, but I don't hate it either. It's fine. Gostisbehere at 4.125 for one season. That I already know is a decent value. So 41 points in 75 games, 51 in 82. It's extremely rare to find how much offensive production you get out of this guy in the league. It's really rare. So that's a steal of a. I mean, I don't know if he's a liability defensively. I don't think he would be to be able to put up those numbers. You couldn't be horrendous. So, anyways, I think that's a killer deal. He's 30. I mean, realistically, I would want to sign him for longer. He's the kind of guy I would want 3 to 5 years. At his age, 5 years would be fine for me, given his track record. And you could do 5.5 million, he'd be worth it. Um, I wouldn't like to spend too much on defensemen, even, decently performing defensemen, because when you contrast, so a defenseman will get like 50 points versus a forward for 50 points. Um, like that's where you'd maybe spend more on a defenseman versus a forward because of scarcity. But um, if you decrease, like let's say you go with a defenseman that's like a quarter of a point per game, and you can get him for 3 million or something like that, and then you allocate that saved money, the 2 million, to a forward. So where you could have gotten a $5 million forward, you can now get a $7 million forward. That might be the difference of like 12 goals a season or something like that. Maybe like 20 points difference. So just in terms of what you actually get for the money, I think it's better spent on forwards in most cases. But he's one of the rare cases where if you're going to spend more on a defenseman, it makes sense because just his production is quite good. Anyways, next up, Ryan O'Reilly, 4.5, 4 seasons with Nashville. I'd say that's pretty cheap. He's 32, expires when he's 36. Oops, why is it doing that? Last season, a bit of a dip in his performance, 30 points in 53. But otherwise, I mean, he's like 50, 60 point kind of forward, 20 some odd goals. Very good two-way centerman. Extremely valuable in my opinion. I think his playoff performance is quite good. Yeah, 65 points in 75 games. So at, what was it, 4.5 for him? Super cheap, really good deal in my opinion. And 4 seasons, perfect for him. I think that's an ideal contract. That's exactly what I would want. Compared to market value, you're getting a really good deal in my opinion. So really like that contract. Klingberg going to Toronto at 4.15 already. I know that's a great deal. So he's like half a point per game approximately, maybe a bit more. Yeah, over half a point per game in the playoffs. That's an outstanding deal in my opinion. 30 years old, would maybe want to lock him up longer, but I think it's all because of their cap issues in Toronto and he took a bit of a discount, or gave a bit of a discount, sorry. So, I mean, it's an underpay in my opinion, as it was with Goss this year. So, great deal, very good for Toronto. Preferably, you would have wanted him longer. Maybe he's a guy I would want 3 to 5 years. You could do 5 million more. I would do 5 million in terms of market value. You could pay him 6, 7, and that would be kind of along the lines. But I wouldn't pay that. Anyways, great deal in my opinion. Good job for Toronto there. Orlov signed in Carolina. So Carolina is going to be super strong. 7.75. It's quite expensive, but 2 years. So this is the thing about paying market value for defensemen. If you can keep it short term, I don't think it's that bad of an idea. So 31, that'll bring him to 33. He's kind of along the same lines as Klingberg in terms of production. About half a point per game, somewhere around there. So 36 in 66 games, 35 in 76, 22 in 51, 27 in 69. So pretty much like 30-point defenseman. So maybe just under half a point per game. So I would say it's too expensive for my taste, but I would rather this is actually within the possibilities of what I would do because it's just short term. 2 years, you can get out of the contract if he's not good. You can extend him if you want to. Uh, Now, I would have to look through all their contracts to say if this is the case. But sometimes when you have uh, a couple ELC, so entry level contracts where you've got decent performing players, you can overspend, and it's not a bad idea because you get a player for free in free agency. Um, anyways, I'm speaking kind of in concepts rather than it being directly applicable to this case. But in any case, I don't hate the contract. I think it's far too much. For him, it'd be like, well, if you're paying 4.15 for Klingberg, he should technically be like 3.5. But for market value, he's probably like sorry, what I would pay. So my value would be something like 5.5. But market value is what he signed for essentially, especially if it's on short term. So it's an okay contract, and you add in a really decent offensive defenseman, maybe two-way, however you want to argue how he plays. So not bad. Bertuzzi, 5.5 for 1 season with Toronto. I can tell you already that that's reasonable. So he's kind of dipped in performance. 8 goals and 30 points in 50 games. So a bit over half a point per game. 62 with 30 goals and 68. 7 points in 9 games. 48 with 20 goals. So he can score, that's the thing. And goals are hard to come by. So in my opinion, to spend that much, even though he hasn't been super fantastic, at least from the last season, and he had the injury the one season, or was it? I think it was an injury. But anyways, if you're going to spend that money on anybody, it's perfectly reasonable for him. And to be honest, for market value, he's probably worth. He could have probably gotten something like $7 million, I'm guessing, just what other people would pay. This is pretty much what I would want to pay. 5.5 is reasonable for him. So great contract there. Domi going to Toronto, not really going to speak about it because his performance isn't anything crazy, but reasonable cap hit at $3 million. Good job for Toronto again. Treliving has done pretty decent in terms of filling out the roster, so not bad. We'll see what happens moving forward. And then lastly, we've got Kopitar signing an extension, 2 seasons, $7 million per. Now, it has to mean that he only has 1 season left on his current contract, which was expensive, I thought. Yeah, $10 million. He's got 1 season left. $10 million, I think, was an overpay for him. But in any case, so he's still near a point per game, 20 goals-ish per season. Good two-way centerman. It expires when he's 38 was it? Yeah. So, I mean, at $7 million, that's perfectly reasonable for him. But again, keep in mind that's going to be 37, 38 kind of age, and is he going to have the same performance? I don't think so. So maybe $7 million is a bit high. Maybe something like 5.5, 6. But it's 2 seasons, so I mean it's no big deal. It's reasonable. It's definitely market value. Could be even lower than market value, because he, rather than $10 million, he probably was worth maybe something like, I don't know, 8.5, 8. So anyways, I mean it's kind of right on target, so it's reasonable. So that's it for the big contracts to speak about, and we're just going to filter down below 2 million and just talk about some of the steals that are out there. So some players that either were bought out or are signing for cheap. So Van Riemsdyk 1 million, super killer deal. Um, he's like half a point per game, maybe a bit over half a point per game. Still not old, 34. So you could get a really good season out of him. And at only $1 million, that's really not risky whatsoever. That's a great contract. The Pacioretty one we already spoke about. That's a good contract as well. Who else is there? Ho ho ho. Gustafson. If it's the right Gustafson. Yeah, so for example, he had 60 points in 79 games with Chicago. He's something like, at minimum, probably half a point per game. He's worth, in my opinion. Again, I don't know about his defensive capabilities, but at least from an offensive perspective, he's worth at least 3 million, probably more towards 4, and he's getting 825,000. What a steal! Going to New York, so great job for New York. Yeah. So, anyways, who else do we have? Talbot at 1 million. It's a great deal for a really decent goalie. Lucic went back to Boston, $1 million. It's pretty cheap for Lucic. Wheeler went to the Rangers, 800,000. That's so cheap because he's 3/4 of a point per game, still producing. 36 years old, still at a good age. It's a killer deal. Shattenkirk, I think he's still producing, isn't he? Yeah, so 1/3 of a point per game, and you're only paying what? 1 million? That's so cheap. Based on that performance, he's probably worth, again, 3.5, 4 million. So Boston's got a few huge steals there. Let's see, anybody else? Oh, I didn't see this. Quick signed in New York, 825,000. That's a great deal. He's still got, I think, a couple seasons left in him, so I really like that signing. At the very least, maybe as a depth goalie, it's a great deal there. Who else? Reimer at 1.5. That's a steal too. He's probably worth 2.5. Or sorry, I would pay 2.5, but he's probably worth something like a 3 for market value because he's one of the more consistent goalies. Last season was a bit low, but 911, 906, 914, 900 is a bit low again. 913, 920, 938, 918, 907. So, really pretty consistent, I would say at least, or I would argue. So he's a great pickup for Detroit. I think that's going to be great. I wonder what their tandem is. Because I know they picked up Nedeljkovic. Oh, yeah, they have Husso. So him and Husso, that's a really stable goaltending tandem, in my opinion. I really like that. So good for Detroit there. Druin. Somebody I haven't thought of for a while. 825,000 in Colorado. What a drop he's had in his career. It's wild. What else? Craig Smith, I know, is a decent deal. He's not anything crazy to talk about, but at 1 million, that's pretty cheap. Um, Brossoit went back to Winnipeg. Cap hit's fine, but I would have wanted less because he's had injury problems and stuff. Yamamoto at 1.5. I think his production's way over that. Not quite. 20 goals, 41 points in 81 games, 25 points in 58, so like half a point per game. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he's worth probably more. You could probably spend 2.5 for him. So that's a pretty good deal in my opinion. Fisher. No. Any other things to talk about? No. No, I mean, I'm sure there's a number of other steals in there, but I just wanted to cover kind of, some of those guys like Wheeler and stuff signing for super cheap. And yeah, so anyway, some pretty good steals there in terms of contracts. One thing I'm going to pull up here is remaining UFAs. So Kane hasn't signed yet. Taves, Tarasenko, Dumba. And then that's pretty much it for, pretty big name players. I don't know if you'd keep Taves in the same category. Bergeron, sorry, I should have said too, but he was getting paid a lot less. Maybe there's a couple other names here. There's some serviceable players still out there like Stastny and Kessel. So I mean, there's Krejci too. I forgot. I don't know. Krejci and Bergeron might retire. Who knows? So, yeah. So long story short, I mean, most of the the major guys that were available have signed. There's still a few left. The plan was I was probably going to do multiple updates on signings and my opinion on them, and yeah, but there's not as much left, so I might only do one more later on in the off season because there's really not much left. So I might do another one 3/4 of the way in the off season or something. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, I mean, everybody's pretty much signed it. There wasn't a crazy amount of like super high end players. There's still a few that are out there, like Tarasenko and Kane are still very good players. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll touch base once a big chunk of the off season's done, or when we've, like, let's say it could be a week from now and we have all of those guys signed. I might do it then. So we'll see. We'll kind of play it by ear and see who signs when and decide on when to do another update. And yeah, like I said, it's all kind of my opinion on the contracts. Everybody would have heard of them if you follow closely as they happen, but this is more of just, to give you guys my thoughts on them. So, because I kind of have an interest, at least with cap spending and all that, since I'm most interested in the management side of things. And on that note, actually, if you haven't seen before, you should maybe take a look at my NHL 23 franchise mode series. I took over the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I know it's just a video game, but 3 seasons in a row now where we got President's Trophy, Stanley Cup in the second season. First season we had a first round flop. But yeah, and we're just about to start the playoffs. And we're going to be doing that stream tomorrow, so if you have any interest in that, you can have a look. And I should give myself credit. I just spoke with somebody about this today. I haven't played the game for almost 10 years now, and I I practiced I think 3 seasons maybe of franchise mode, and then started doing it all live. And I mean, 3 Presidents Trophies in a row is not bad, and I mean it's all because I completely revamped the Toronto Maple Leafs to my style. And again, it's a video game, so how realistic it is, I don't know, but played it on the hardest level, so um, who knows? Anyways, so if you're interested in that, maybe have a look. Otherwise, I also play BA Pro if that's of any interest. But yeah, so I think we'll leave it there. Not really anything else to say, just kind of, like I said, giving my opinion on these signings and all that. So yeah, so if you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications, and channel homepage has upcoming streams. At the moment, nothing scheduled. This was the last one I scheduled for at least this time. We'll figure out if there's anything else to do moving forward. Any other subjects I'm going to cover, I don't know. Yeah, otherwise, franchise mode, that schedule you can see in the About section of the channel. It runs Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Fingers can't keep up. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can see it live. You can, of course, always go back, have a playlist for all of them. And yeah, any comments, leave them in the comments. Suggestions likewise. And we will see you guys again. Oh, I should say, sorry for canceling the stream yesterday. Just something came up and I couldn't make it. So delayed it and then had to cancel. So sorry about that. But yeah, so we'll see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, franchise mode. And we're going to be going through the playoffs. Hopefully can do well. We'll see. Maybe back-to-back Stanley Cups, that would be nice. But yeah. Anyways, so we'll see you guys tomorrow or next time I do another one of these if you only watch these ones. So see you guys soon.